And welcome into Facebook Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles from Pressbox and PressBoxOnline.com. This is Pressbox Live, as I said, and joining me as always is my co-host Ross Grimsley. And Ross, we've got a very special guest this week, a man that you're a little older than, I'm a little older than, so he's the youngster in the group, and that's former Orioles shortstop and now MASN analyst, Mike Bordick. Mike, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. How you doing, Stan?
Good.
How you doing, buddy?
And you
Good,
do
Ross.
look young. Boy, you look like you could be like in your mid-20s right now.
Oh my gosh, are you serious? I've let my gray beard grow out.
Hey, we appreciate.
Probably feel the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Bordy, we appreciate your coming on with us and talking a little baseball. First of all, we'll talk about a whole bunch of topics with you, but got to ask you, what was this experience like this 2020 season? There are some people that say, oh, at the end, when the World Series is over, they got to have an asterisk next to it. I think in some ways, despite the fact there was less games, it was one of the most trying seasons for everybody to get through.
It really was. I think as a fan, certainly appreciated the efforts, right, at first and foremost by everybody to get the players back on the field. And then, of course, the players, I thought they played some great baseball. Certainly as Orioles fans, that first month of the season, we thought we were going to sneak our way into the playoffs, which would have been great. But it was an exciting time, obviously, for the Orioles. But I think the year in and of itself was, just incredibly hard mentally on everybody involved. I mean, this year in and of itself is ridiculously trying on everybody. But just from a baseball standpoint, getting geared up for spring training, 3 great weeks of spring training. The team was starting to really show its colors, coming together, playing better baseball. The pitching was really picking it up. And then next thing you know, everything is shut down. And just for 3 months, we're all just like, we don't know what the heck's going to happen. So, and then I think every day, personally, I'd wake up, are we still going to play baseball today? Just hoping, kind of keeping the fingers crossed. So, when I was able to go into the field every day, I was just, I was thankful for the opportunity to actually watch baseball and call some baseball. And I tip my hat, and I forever will, for everybody that really pulled this off. And the next big step is to make it through this off season and have a full season next year. So, but a lot of things going, obviously, in that regard. COVID won, but the collective bargaining agreement, I think, is scarier than COVID, to be honest with you.
It's going to be
a
tricky one to maneuver through. Hey, before I turn you over to Ross for a couple of questions, I wanted to ask you something. A lot of times the manager of a rebuilding ball club, like Brandon Hyde right now, or Rich Renteria with the Cubs and Rich Renteria with the White Sox, they don't quite make it through to when a team gets good again. I thought along those lines, Brandon Hyde had a tremendous season for his own personal growth into that job. Your assessment?
Oh, absolutely. I think so much, so many managers can really be kind of, we can analyze a lot of managers, just how their teams responded. I think how the team started after the break and everything that Brandon Hyde did from his very first message in spring training was really outstanding. And fortunately, I got to hang out with the coaching staff and the players in spring training. And he, right from day one, he said, listen, guys, last year was a lot of fun. You guys a lot of you got your feet wet in the big leagues. You proved you could play here. Now it's time to raise the bar a little bit. Now it's either do it or you're out of here kind of situation, So he challenged these guys, and they really started to come together. And I think character-wise, he and his coaching staff really have a great clubhouse. They really do. The guys take the field. They play hard every night. They're short talent-wise. But, the fact that when spring training ended, and then there was 3 months of what's going to happen, and then the Orioles coming back and getting off to such a great start, is, in my opinion, all due to Brandon Hyde.
Yeah.
You know, to keep the communication, to make sure guys are getting their work in, to stay focused, and then it comes, boom, 3 weeks, boys, we got to get it right. So his spring training for the middle or summer spring camp was exceptional as well. He got his guys ready to go for the season, and they were better prepared than any other team. They were beating the best teams at that first month of the season, and it all goes back to how prepared they were. And unfortunately, the talent kind of rises to the top, and they just got a little bit outmanned, I think, the second half of that shortened season.
They were built for like a 40-game season, not a 60-game season.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Hey, Ross, go ahead. I know you got a couple for Bordick.
Well, Bordick, we'll get back to the Orioles later. We'll talk a little bit about you, your career a little bit. And I was looking at some numbers which are really fascinating to me. And 14-year career, you made 128 errors at shortstop in 14,000 innings, 7,143 chances. That's 9 errors a year. That's unbelievable. You went 100 and had 110 consecutive errorless games. You had over, I think, almost 600 chances in. I don't think you were drafted. You signed as a free agent. What and who turned you into what you were? Because those are some fantastic numbers. And the other thing I want to say, you played third base and second base. You only made 1 error at third base. So I'm going, maybe they should have kept Ripken at shortstop and put you there. But anyway, go back to when all this started for you. Who was a big influence for you? Because those are some fantastic numbers, I want to tell you.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I've always taken a lot of pride in my defense, right? And I think at a young age, I learned the importance of that. And I'll tell you a big reason why. I think playing other sports, you learn about picking up your teammates and the importance of doing things the right way. And football was actually my favorite sport as a kid because you really relied on the guy next to you.
Right.
If he missed his block, we were in trouble, right? Or if you didn't catch the ball, or if, so I think that carried over baseball wise. And I took errors so personally, I did not want to let my teammates down, right? So I think a lot of guys that take a lot of pride in their defense feel that way, So to go out there and I actually learned a lot from my dad, I think defensively, although he was old school in the sense of get in front of it. That's all you heard, right? Get in front of the baseball, get in front of the baseball. And that was pretty much it. I learned the most, to be honest with you, from Walt Weiss and a lot of just playing with guys coming up through the minor leagues, watching guys and then trying to emulate guys because, I was just basic when I went to the University of Maine, just catch the ball, be fundamentally sound. And it wasn't until I signed professionally that I had my first exposure to the Latin American players and to watch them and their hands and how they got rid of the baseball, the double plays. And I said, man, that's how you have to do it. Right. And I had to learn that because the game was so fast, right? At the big league level, you had to learn to get rid of it. And, and then I think just work ethic from not being drafted and just not ever wanting to have somebody take my spot because, when you climb through and you have to fight your way to make it, that when you make it, there's other people doing the same thing to try to get you, right? So I worked as hard in the big leagues as I did in the minor leagues. And I think I was fortunate to stay healthy. And when you can accumulate that many games playing baseball, you just become, I'm not going to say zen, but you just know the game, angles so much better. You read the ball off the bat. You just understand it. And that's where I got to the end of my career. Unfortunately, things started slowing down a little bit, but I was so lucky to be able to play in my 30s because I felt like that's when I was the best player I ever was. I mean, I saw the game differently. I just understood it better.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you were a 260 hitter. Now that's respectable. There's nothing wrong with that. You did things that they don't do now. You sacrifice, you move guys over. There's no analytic thing for that, so that doesn't show. But you had one stretch. You hit, I think, from '98 to 2000, where you hit double-digit home runs.
Yeah.
What did you do different? What changed?
He learned it from Canseco and McGuire.
He was here with the Orioles.
I'll get back to that, but it was Terry Crowley.
Okay.
Plain and simple. Yeah, he taught me how to get to the baseball, get to the inside pitch, and made some adjustments there. But to preface this kind of offensive story, listen, I had a couple really good years in the minor leagues. I get to Double-A. I'm hitting really well. I've got an open stance because I actually did talk to Jose Canseco. He said, for me, when you open up, you see the pitcher better with both eyes. So I used that in Double-A. I'm not a power hitter. I was hitting 300. I didn't have a home run or anything. Our farm director, and I'm sure you may know him, Ross, Carl Keel.
Yep.
He was like just a real old school guy.
Yes,
Came
sir.
over from Minnesota. And he said, that's a power hitter stance, because that's how Canseco said, you need to stand up and just play pepper with the pitcher,
Thanks.
Screwed me up
Yeah.
for like 2 years. I just lost my confidence.
Yeah.
They try to, back then you were labeled as a player and you had to deal with it. I was not a power hitter. I was get the bunt down, hit behind, period.
Yep.
And it wasn't until I got more established as a player that I finally took a little bit more responsibility and saying I can do a little bit more, I think, at the plate. And coupled with Terry Crowley, I had some of my best offensive years. I hit for average. I hit for power.
Right.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So,
I was just curious what happened. That was interesting. Another thing you mentioned, being quick. You play with the Latin guys, how quick their hands are. Now, I know you do some coaching and spring training, and you do probably during the season, you get a chance to talk to some guys. Getting rid of the ball, now they don't have to worry about the runner taking them out now. When you teach guys now, how is it different? What do you obviously you don't have to get out of the way of the runner so you can stay on the bag a little bit longer. Obviously, kind of look out. But what's different now compared to when you were playing?
Well, I think you still have to have an awareness of where the runner is, because at some point somebody's going to start taking out guys. There's going to be the guy to break up a double play or whatever. So you still have to have that kind of awareness. But the most important thing is quick feet. I think when young infielders get in trouble, they try to be too fast, so they reach out a little too soon before they see the ball. So you kind of have to stay in your position and wait for that ball to be fed. You anticipate a bad feed, right? So you're staying at the base, and then it's just your feet really have to be quick. Bam, bam, get them headed towards that first base to your target. So not a lot has really changed, but when I was coming up, it was more throw and get off your feet. Now they're not really, and I think Jonathan Scope kind of was one of the first to say, screw it, I don't need to get off my feet anymore. I can use the base as protection. Plus my legs are the size of tree trunks. I'll just stay right here and turn it. And he did. And a lot of guys, especially second basemen, that's how they turn it now. Yeah. They just stay right on the base and let it fly.
Mike, I wanted to talk to you. You played for your first 4 or 5 years in the big leagues with the Oakland A's, and your manager was Tony La Russa. You referenced playing behind Walt Weiss a little bit, how much you learned from Walt. I'm wondering what kind of manager you thought Tony La Russa was at the time and what his career ended up being. And now let me finish it off by saying there are rumors that Jerry Reinsdorf in Chicago is seriously considering bringing Tony La Russa out of managerial retirement to manage that young, dynamic White Sox ball club.
Oh my gosh. Well, that would be pretty exciting and intriguing too, because, Tony, obviously one of the best I mean, Hall of Fame, old school managers there are. But, you know, he, like a lot of the great managers of that time, really were like computers anyway. They had such great preparation. They were always ahead of the other manager. They knew the matchups. They knew who they had in the bullpens. They just understood. And the thing that I loved about Tony, for me anyway, as a young player, he got the most out of me. He knew what I could do and what I, could handle up there. He knew I wasn't going to be an offensive powerhouse when I first came up to the big leagues. So he had me lay bunts down. He had me execute hit and runs, hit behind runners, so I feel like part of the offense. And, Stan, it wasn't, I was called up in 90. I played almost a full season in 91 and then a full season in 92. And in 1992, from just that confidence that he showed in me, I hit 300 in the big leagues for a full season, which, it never happened again for me. And honestly, I don't think it ever really came close. But I was just such an inconsistent hitter. But he instilled that kind of confidence, So I thought he was great at that. And I loved, playing behind him and understanding what he was doing. He taught me an incredible amount about the game. There were many times where he would just call me over before I'd go up and he'd go, listen, we're not going to put a sign on. So it's going to be a hit and run on the second pitch. Or, I want you to take the first pitch. And then we're going to bunt on the second. He'd always kind of lay it out for me, explain what was going on. I mean, he'd put signs on, but I think he felt like he could really do anything with me from an offensive standpoint as far as execution in that regard.
I know Buck Showalter handled the bullpen pretty darn well, but the years you were there initially with Eckersley there and a couple other guys where he mixed and matched, I think La Russa maybe revolutionized the use of the bullpen.
Yeah, he and Dave Duncan were a great team. And I think a lot like, Joe Torre and Don Zimmer, with the Yankees. I think they just had a great understanding of their players and just how to match up. And so I think Tony really relied a lot on Duncan. And I know Duncan got a lot of credit for how he handled pitching staffs. But yeah, when push came to shove, Tony had to ultimately make those decisions. And he had some big arms down there in the bullpen, but he also had some ability too to understand, what guys worked in what situations. It was incredible watching him do his thing.
Go ahead, Ross.
Yeah. Bordy, the Orioles this year, a lot of guys came up. We got a chance to see them, and some, they did some impressive things. Being in the minor leagues for 31 years and seeing a lot of different, Edgar Martinez, Tino Martinez, Jr., Griffey Jr. with Seattle, then with the Giants, Bumgarner, Posey, Crawford, Lincecum, all these guys, and seeing different Robinson Cano. These guys, when you first saw them, you knew these guys were special. You knew they had a chance to really be difference makers, if they stayed healthy. With the Oriole people that you see, that you're around and you work with, is there any guy on the team now or in the minor leagues that you know of, or that that is that type of guy?
Oh man. Ryan Mountcastle was pretty impressive.
But you on the
came up.
spot, didn't I?
Yeah, you really did.
Yeah.
Ryan Mountcastle was impressive.
I know.
I think he's gonna hit. At the major league level, I really believe that. Now finding a position is another thing, but I don't know. I just feel like the game, that's the way it is right now. It's just so much offense that they're looking for these power bats. And the great thing about Mountcastle is he can hit for average too. So he would be probably the guy I'd slide right to the forefront.
Yeah. That'd be who I'd say too. I just wondered, because you see, and I'm sure you saw him even as a player, but as a coach, you see these guys and you go, this guy good, and he's going to make a difference somewhere if he stays healthy. And that was just seeing those people and what it meant to me to be around them and see what they did. You know who those people are. And that was, I was
Yeah.
curious if you've seen anybody, Mountcastle would be the first one, I would say. Now, some of the other guys at the lower levels, you still see something that goes, this guy's special. That was what I was wondering. Did you see anybody that you thought was really special, that this is a guy that's really going to be a difference maker, or he's not here in the organization yet?
Honestly, unfortunately, we haven't seen a lot of the newer, younger players play. And I think pretty exciting last couple of drafts, right? With Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson. So I think the Orioles just have a slew of talent that we haven't even really seen yet. We hear all the big names, Rodriguez, Hall. We've gotten a look at some of the younger arms that have come up through, because the Orioles kind of, were hanging their hat on the minor leagues, but it was more the pitching side of things.
Right.
From a position player standpoint, really there wasn't a lot. And fortunately, Mountcastle finally made it up there and showed that, there is a little bit of offense in the minor leagues as well. So, but I think there's a handful of young players that we have yet to even, scratch the surface on. I think Rutschman's going to be an incredible impact player. I think he just has all the makeup and the tools, to be an impact player, but not just, an impact with the bat and glove, but as a leader. He could be a guy that, could be like a Jeter, that type of leadership quality. So I think there's some excitement there. And, there's a long list really of young players that, like I said, we don't really know about. So I think hopefully next year, we get another good look at these kids in spring training and then be able to evaluate a little bit better. And it's going to be interesting to see how the young players are. Anyway, how they've responded over a year of not doing a lot.
It's going to be interesting too with the way they're taking the minor league teams and cutting them from several organizations. 42 teams supposedly. That's going to probably make an impact on scouting, player development,
everything.
Just a number of things, So that should be interesting to see what happens with that. It's going to affect a lot of people. I know the Orioles have a lot of guys that they got to put on the 40-man roster, protect them from the Rule 5 draft. Should be a lot of pretty good players available. Right. Just looking at some of the names. So, that's something that's going to be quite interesting. Yeah, it's been an interesting year all around.
Yeah, it has. And unfortunately, baseball had been talking about going through this transition period. And this is, I think, in a not so good way, kind of helped expedite this process to transition, right? To cut more teams, to somehow kind of shrink the whole industry. And, I think a couple years from now, we're going to go like, what the heck just happened? So things are kind of in the process right now.
It's really going to be interesting to see. Something is going to evolve that we can't really think about right now. Certain cities, there's going to be some kind of barnstorming tour or something. There's going to be a way that a lot of these players are still going to be playing baseball, I think. But let me move on to something.
Yeah, well, they're definitely. I think there has to be.
Yeah.
But I also think collegiate baseball is going to start to kind of mesh a little bit more.
Interesting.
It seems like that to me anyway.
Interesting.
And I think because I think we're going to see turnover. I think the arms, these guys are just throwing so hard that there's no way they're going to last.
We see that this year. We saw it this year.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I know there's a lot to it, the time off and stuff, but okay, you're throwing 98 but you're throwing 60% sliders.
Yeah.
That much torque coming down. I don't know.
Really.
So I think there's going to be turnover. I think college ball is going to get closer to pro ball, and they're going to just take guys out of college and boom, off they go.
That's true. So true.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Bordy, I got a couple Cal Ripken questions for you. And before I ask you the obvious one about what it was like to come into Baltimore and replace him at shortstop, wanted to ask you, it just dawned on me. We did a commemorative magazine, Press Box did, when Cal went into the Hall of Fame. And the piece that I wrote for the magazine was about one particular play that kind of punctured the argument that Cal was sort of afraid to get hurt. He was sort of avoiding things to get hurt. And it was against the Oakland A's. And I wonder if you remember it, where he got hit high on his shoulder by Bob Welsh.
Oh, yeah.
And he was on first base. And then Devereaux hit a ball into the alley. And as it played out, Cal came around, and poor Terry Steinbach didn't know what hit him.
Crushed
And
him.
it was Cal being ticked off at being thrown at by Welsh. Do you remember that play?
Oh, I absolutely do. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
And at the time, it wasn't a dirty play at the time. It was a hard-nosed play.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
you know, up and in fastball to Cal. And, you know, when Cal and I were teammates, we actually talked about that play. And Cal was
He was pissed
incredibly upfront. He says,
Yeah.
so when I was at first base, you know, because I think it actually hit him in the back of the hand. I think it hit him
Yeah,
like here.
it might have, yeah.
Yeah. And he said, it was you. He said, I was going to take you out and knock you into left field. And I went, all right. Yeah. But you know
Thanks.
what? But that, you know, Ross, like you were saying, I mean, the difference, right? As a middle infielder, I expected that. Whenever
Sure.
a guy got hit, I expected him to come out there and try
Yeah,
to
right.
get to me, right? So, yeah, I kind of anticipated that. But somehow I think Cal got to second base. I don't know if it was a pass ball or a base
I think
ball.
that's what it was. And then Devereaux hit the
And
ball
then
on the right.
Yeah, then he went from second and just destroyed Steinbach. I
And
mean,
Steinbach was hurt. He was hurt for
Oh.
3 months, I think, after that.
gave him a concussion. Yeah. Oh, messed them all up. Yeah, hit him
Shoulder,
hard, man.
collarbone, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now we know the dark side of Cal Ripken Jr. What was that like? What were the pressures like when you came to Baltimore in '97, not just to play shortstop, but to move Cal over? Did he do anything to make you feel at ease about it?
Cal did everything he possibly could to make me feel comfortable. He really did.
Yeah.
Cal was he was unbelievable. He was gracious about the whole thing. I'm to this day, I'm surprised he's never said anything controversial about me coming in, you know, because I know in my heart of hearts that he didn't want to move. Who the heck does? You know, I don't want to stop playing shortstop. Nobody does. And Cal's he changed that position, right? And arguably one of the greatest shortstops of all time. So Cal kind of
the funny thing, Mike, not to interrupt you, we had Doug DeSense's on a couple of weeks ago, and Doug, as you know, replaced Brooks Robinson.
right.
And they said that when Cal was ready to come to the majors, well, we got to get rid of DeSense's. But Earl Weaver, this was Earl's going into his last season, had pronounced that we're going to keep DeSense's and play him at third, and I'm going to start Ripken at shortstop. And then Edward Bennett Williams came in because of some problems in the negotiations, and Doug had been the player rep for the Orioles. He ordered Hank Peters to trade DeSense's. And it was interesting because Weaver thought he was a shortstop right from the get-go. So anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The census had a tough time. I mean, it was, the fans were up his rear, and it was just, it was he had a tough time, and it took a lot.
Well, replacing Brooks Robinson.
But he did, and I think when you do that, you bring some of that on yourself. And he just, every time he made an error, it just manifested into another one or a throwing error. And he just, I mean, it was tough on him. It was really tough. And he's amazing. And the best thing that happened to him was getting traded, I think, because it was just, it finally let up a little bit, but it just was really tough for him.
Huh. Yeah, it wasn't easy for me either. And I think my only saving grace was the fact that we won in '97. You know, we were really good. And for the first 2 months, I was really bad. And fans let me know too. I mean, they were throwing stuff, they were hollering, and I could hear them. And that's when you know you're struggling, when you can hear the fans, right? You can hear them say, Bordick, you suck.
You suck.
I do. I know. I hear you. So, yeah, it was a tough couple months. But, Cal, like I said, Cal was great through the whole thing. Every day we played catch. And every day we were teammates. He and I played catch, So, that helped me as well. I ended up the second half relaxing, playing a lot better. And I just got more comfortable as each year went on in Baltimore. And really it was, because of Cal. He could have easily made it a lot harder on me.
Ross, time. Ask a couple more, Ross, and then I'll wrap things up with Mike Bordick.
Okay. Well, let's, a little bit, you got the Dodgers, you got the Rays, World Series. What's your I'm sure you've watched some of the games. The Rays pitching and defense are pretty good, and they hit home runs and they score a lot of their runs. But give us a little synopsis of both teams. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I love both teams, and because I got a little blood in both, right? Cash and I were teammates in Toronto for a little bit in 2003. So cheering for him. And every time I see him, I wish him the best. I know a couple of his coaches very well. His head trainer was with the Orioles organization, Joe Benj. So, there are a couple guys that I know, so I'm pulling for the Rays. And I love their brand of baseball, even though I question them pulling pitchers so soon. I just don't understand how Morton got pulled with 66 pitches the other day. That guy could have thrown a complete game. I didn't understand it.
Really?
But so yeah, I'm kind of pulling for the Rays a little bit, but I got the Dodgers as well now. So they got Adam Kolarek. Adam Kolarek is Frank Kolarik's son. They're from Catonsville, and Frank Kolarek is the president of League of Dreams, and I'm the chairman of the League of Dreams.
Right.
Yeah. So definitely pulling for the Dodgers and Adam Kolarek as well. So it's going to be tough. I'm happy as heck that both teams are in it, because even as a kid, I was either watching the Dodgers or the Yankees, and for some reason, all the Dodgers stuck with me. Ron Say, Davey Lope, Steve Yeager, just all the great Dodgers. So I got a little bit of a soft spot for the Dodgers in there as well.
Right.
Along those lines with Kolarek played ball at University of Maryland, as did Brandon Lau of Tampa. And I understand that the last Maryland Terrapin to win a World Series was Ron Swoboda on the '69 Mets. That's what I heard last night from somebody.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, there's going to be another one.
Yeah. Ross, you got one more for?
Well, give me who's going to win, so I can go to my local bookie here.
Oh my goodness!
You got to vote for. You got to vote for.
To be honest,
you got to vote for question 2 to do that. You got to vote for question 2.
Right.
I just feel like it's the Dodgers' time. I don't know, man. They've just been there. I just feel like they're going to hoist it this year.
I agree with you.
In wrapping up, Bordy, I think what's been interesting to me is I've watched this Dodger team over the last 4 or 5 years, and it seemed like they felt that unless they had Kershaw in a big game, that they couldn't win. And I think they finally got over that this year.
Right.
And it's interesting that Kershaw is going to pitch the first game on perfect rest. And I think Kershaw and Buehler are going to be a little too much for Tampa. That's the way I'm thinking right now.
Yeah. And I think I think those Dodger bats are going to show up too. Yeah,
really.
They are tough.
I agree.
Man.
I agree.
Oh my God.
Hey, we're on the World Series. You played in one World Series. You got to play in the '91 World Series, and your team, the Oakland A's, got swept by the Cincinnati Reds. How disappointing was that? When it's kind of like the Orioles against the Royals a couple of years ago, where you don't feel like you really showed up.
Yeah, well, so that 90, it was actually 90, and the A's were
90,
favored against the Reds for sure. And this the only reason I was at the World Series was because Walt Weiss got hurt in the ALCS. I was actually in instructional league.
Okay.
Weiss gets taken out at second base. They called up to see if I was still in instructional league, and I was. So they put me on the World Series roster. So
Wow.
I got to sit there. I actually got in 3 games, but you know, I thought, hey, wow, I'll get a World Series ring out of this for sure. But
That's
God
great.
dang, the Reds just were rolling.
Yeah.
They had Rios was just a beast. Hatcher had like 13 hits in a row or something like that. I mean,
And
they
had
were
the
just
nasty,
they
they had
were
the
on a
nasty
roll.
boys out of the bullpen.
And they had the
Yeah.
nasty boys. Yeah, they just got on a roll and they shut us down big time. Shut our offense down. And I also played in the 2000 World Series. The remember
the
I got
Mets.
traded to the Mets.
With the
Mets and the
Subway
Yankees,
Series.
and-
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was more disappointing because I thought the Mets, you know, I thought we had a really good team. We had great pitching.
So you were in
And,
that game where Clemens threw the bat at Piazza. Woo.
Oh yeah,
Boy,
absolutely.
I watched the
See-
special that they did the other night on the MLB Network about that.
Yeah.
That was intense. That really was intense.
Yeah, and I think that was a turning point, to be honest with you, in my mind. I thought Piazza should have went and got him.
Yeah.
I thought he should have run after him. I think the Mets would have just rallied and we may have won the World Series.
Really?
You never know.
Yeah.
In wrapping this up, the 97 Orioles had a tremendous regular season, went out and beat Seattle in that series, and then they got beat. How disappointing was that, and how good was that team?
I thought it was the best team in baseball in '97, and it was very, very disappointing. You know, for me personally, you know, just because of what I had to go through anyway from the first part of it, and then I said we are going to win this freaking World Series. I said we have to, and unfortunately, it didn't happen. And I thought the way we rolled through Seattle, I thought we were just going to roll right through Cleveland too, and it just kind of shows you, unfortunately, just how, I mean, you win and lose by just the slimmest of margins. And unfortunately, I learned later down the road that they had picked up Armando Benitez's pitches. He was tipping his pitches. And both Marquise Grissom and Fernandez both got sliders. And they were, you know, they knew what was coming. And they didn't miss them.
No.
They didn't miss them.
That Fernandez home run was one of the most disappointing things I ever been at
Oh,
a
my
Orioles
gosh.
game.
Yeah, I just threw up in my mouth again.
Last question for you. You got to play behind Mike Mussina there for a couple of years. Arguably, I mean, Palmer is far and away the best pitcher the Orioles ever had. But Mike Mussina is well deserved to be a Hall of Famer, don't you think?
Absolutely. And numbers-wise, Mike Mussina's numbers aren't too far off from Palmer's, even though he didn't rack up those complete games and stuff. But Mike Mussina is what, for me playing shortstop at the major league level, playing behind Mike Mussina is what Major League Baseball is supposed to be like.
Yeah.
Fastball away, that's where the fastball goes. Breaking ball down to the way, that's where it goes. And as a defender, you can anticipate and you can, you help out your pitchers.
Yeah.
It's when you don't know where it's going, you have a hard time as a defender.
And how often do you see that now?
I know.
It's unbelievable.
Rarely.
Oh, well, you saw the other night when Bellinger hit the home run. Did you for the Dodgers that won? I forget who was pitching for the.
It was Chris Martin.
Chris Martin.
Yeah,
He
6'10".
threw about 5 balls away from Bellinger, and he was just barely getting the bat on it. And somebody says, "Hey, go inside now." I said, "Don't you dare! Just keep pumping it away." Where'd he throw it? Middle end. Well, he's on top of the plate anyway. Middle end, and he jumped all. I'm going, "Are you kidding me?"
It's funny. I watched I watched that at bat, and it looked to me like Bellinger almost conned him into coming in. He looked like he couldn't handle anything, and I said, I just had a feeling he was going to hit that home run. That was some at bat.
Especially if he threw it where he threw it at, then
Yeah,
that was it's just the way. I mean, that type of the part of the game, you don't give him a chance. You don't give him a chance. Pitch me away, let him hit something to center field or left field.
Yeah,
but that was
absolutely.
I'm going. Are you kidding me? But you
All
see
right,
it a lot. You see
yeah.
it all the
so
time.
are we all in agreement? We're not rooting for them necessarily. We're all in agreement the Dodgers win, Ross?
That's what I think. I think
Yeah,
they got the
that's
best
what I
team.
think, and Bordy's already said he thinks that.
Yeah.
Mike, we
So
really
that
appreciate.
means Tampa Bay will win.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. Thank you for your time, Mike Bordick.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Great
For
seeing
Ross-
you guys.
For
Take
Ross
care.
Grimsley, I'm Stan the Fan, and we'll see you down the road Wednesday night when Gary Stein and I to somebody about October being Maryland Horse Month. Thank you.